Hey guys, what's going on? I was going to talk through. Someone had asked about a capo episode, or maybe talk through how I might use capos. I use capos a lot. I am not ashamed to admit it. I know there's some guys that maybe are hesitant to use a capo or don't like using a capo. Maybe it feels like some kind of crutch or something. That's not how I feel about it. I like to use them because I feel like it opens up new possibilities. So I'll show you what I mean. So us guitar players, you like to play in the key of G, right? Let me turn off some of my effects here so you can hear what's going on. Right? We like to play in the key of G. We like to play in the key of E. Right? So just using those two examples, I was going to show you a few ways that I might play. So let's say we're playing in the key of E. You've learned a song for church and you're in the key of E. Got all these nice, beautiful chord shapes. But at the last second, or maybe your worship leader wants to do your song in E flat. So in that situation, you could tune your whole guitar down a half step and play an E flat. But let's say they wanted to do an F, and you've got all these wonderful shapes that you love, that you like playing in. Well, first thing I would do, I would grab a capo, and I would capo on 1, so that E, your low E, is now your low F. Okay? So you still get all those shapes you like. That would be F. And if they say, maybe the song's in F sharp, you could use it here. Play the same thing. Now you've got your F sharp shapes. Right? All right. So now I can play in the key of F sharp. And what's cool is you get all these open shapes that you can use, like right? You get all that in there. That open E and that open B. All that in there for the key of E, E flat, F, and F sharp. You can even keep going. Now, we talked about at the beginning how G is one of our shapes we love to play. But let's say you're playing with someone, a guitar player, another guitar player, whether they're playing acoustic or electric, and they're playing these shapes. Well, sometimes what I'll do is I'll capo 3, and I'll play in G like this. So if you picture the capo on capo 3, this is kind of like your bar chord, right? The capo is replacing your finger. So you're playing your open E shape, but you're playing a G chord, right? But what's cool is you get all those open shapes that you don't get. Okay, you get some open shapes in the key of G, but these are just different open shapes. So right? Same thing. Right? So you could play that in G, but you just have a different version of an open shape. So I'm just showing you, obviously you keep going. You could play in A flat, you can play in A, same thing keeps going. All right, so that's just some ways that I would use key of E shapes that I like with a capo. We talked about talking about G shapes. So if you think about your E shapes as a way to play an E, F, F sharp, G. So once we get up to past G, you can start playing G shapes, right? So if you're playing A flat, you could play G shapes that we all know and love. F sharp. This is this is a G sharp. It's also A flat. Not to confuse you, I almost never, well, I would never think of playing, well, whatever. Well, we won't get into all that. You could call it both things. I'm playing an A flat. So here's your A flat. What's great is I'm getting my G chord, my C chord, my D chord, E minor, and those shapes that we've talked about on the channel, these ones. You know, all these ones that we love. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get all that stuff in key of A flat, which without the capo, you wouldn't be able to play those same shapes. Not with the open strings and the same chord voicings, which is always what I'm doing when I'm playing. If I'm thinking through like rhythm guitar and making parts or playing parts, I'm trying to think through my voicings. Like what do my ears want to hear? You know, maybe I want to hear like this open shape like this. Let's get back to our spot here. Maybe we want to hear this voicing like this. Right? So all that is available because of this open G string that I'm ringing out. And again, we're in A flat, but that's hard to play without the capo. All right, so moving up, you could play in the key of A. All those same rules apply, but now, if you look at your low note here, this is an A. So instead of playing key of A for guitar, I could play these G shapes. And that might feel like, well, A is a good guitar key in some ways, like maybe for like blues or minor stuff, minor pentatonic things, you know, like some of that kind of classic rock stuff. But a lot of times for like the music that you might be playing at your church, or for worship music, maybe you want some more of those open shapes that we talked about. Or you know, get all that in the key of G or in the key of A, but you get those G shapes. So you get all that in there. You know, that's all right there in the key of A, but you get it also in the key of B flat. You just move it up one. Key of B flat. If you have to play a song on a Sunday, it's in B flat, and you're like, I don't know how to play in B flat. Well, you can play this, right? And you get all those wonderful chords. A lot of you guys may already know, you know, how to play in B flat, key of G. I'm just showing you why I might choose to do that. Same thing with key of B. I've done this a lot for key of B, capo 4. And if you're playing two acoustics, someone's in key of B, they're playing capo 4 G shapes, and you're playing capo 4 G shapes, it might sound a little like you're on top of each other. So in that case, I would play capo 2 and play A shapes for key of B. Same thing for B flat. You could play down here and play A shapes. Right? So you could play B flat like that and play B like this. Right? So the capo works for if you like key of A, you know, you could find ways to play some fun stuff in the key of A. when I'm saying key of A, I mean A shapes with the capo. All right, so back up here, we're in key of B. I've used this a lot. You're playing G shapes. Now what's nice about this is you get your low end information if you need to play like you can have all that, but then you also have this really easily at your disposal if you needed like a so you've got all that right there, so close, and you're right there in those shapes you already know, and you've got your open G string, which is a B note that you can now move around with that your B string being your melody string. Right? Same thing with key of C. Move up here. Obviously we can play C shapes down here, right? But if I'm capoing 5, that's my C. So you just find your root note there, C. And I would play up here for key of C. So all that works through there. So that's just E shapes and G shapes, and you can already play like almost every key, right? So you could go up to C sharp, right? I've done it. It's high, and you might have to play with your capo a little bit to get the tension right, but it's like, it works for C sharp. Now once you get up to like, you know, D, E flat, you know, you're getting kind of high. You may not want to be capoing that high. So in that situation, you're probably back to your D shapes, or maybe you're playing D shapes tuned down a half step, which would be C sharp, right? But you could do it. Just wanted to show you a quick example of how I get through the fretboard just with those two sets of shapes. If you know your E shapes and you know your G shapes, you can capo it through and play like so many keys just with that information. And I wanted to show you why I might choose those shapes, because you get all those open strings and the voicings that you like, or at least the voicings I like, the ones I've used a lot. So hopefully that was helpful. Someone had asked about a capo episode, so I figured I'd just kind of run through a few examples, like real world examples. I've used this countless times to play live or to play at church or to play on tour. Yeah, just want to show you. Oh, also I put, this is the, you know, kind of the typical capo you see, Kaiser. I put a hairband around this one. Stole it from my family. Put the hairband on here, or a rubber band or something works. And it just relieves the tension a little bit. So you can see one of them is like more tightly shut, and this one's a little more open. So if you get that tension right, you can kind of quickly slap it on the neck on an electric, and it won't, as long as it's fretting the note, it keeps it from pulling it too sharp. I've used that a bunch. Also, you can get the kind that adjust the tension, like a D'Addario or G7th capo. Okay, yeah, so there's some capo information. Also, man, I've been really having a lot of fun with these online lessons. People have been emailing in, and we set up a time, and it looks like this. I just sit here with my guitar, and you've got yours, and we're on a video call with the computer, and it's been really fun. I've just been like having the best time, like getting to know some of you guys and seeing where you're at in your playing and what you want to learn from your chord shapes or your lead playing, or some of your like tone questions, or talking about maybe your rigs or your pedals, setting up delay sounds and delay times and stuff. We answer all that in these private lessons. It's been really awesome. So if you're interested, the private lessons, just email me. It's Daniel@DanielCarsonGuitar.com. Daniel@DanielCarsonGuitar.com if you're interested. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.